Terence Crawford is still talking about Tank after what happened in Brooklyn. The boxing world was shocked when Keshawn Davis fought his old rival, Lamont Roach, for the lightweight world title. Most people thought Davis would win easily, but the fight didn't go as expected. The result surprised both fans and other boxers. Now Roach has shared that during their talk in the ring, Tank made a prediction that meant more than just words. Let's look at the full story.
Fight, but I believe we won that fight. Clearly, we should be two-time world champion right now.
In the 9th round, Davis was in big trouble when he suddenly dropped to one knee. It clearly looked like a knockdown, but surprisingly, the referee didn't count it. This mistake was very important because the fight ended in a draw. If the knockdown had been scored correctly, Roach would have gotten a 10-8 round, which might have helped him win the fight. After the fight, everything became chaotic. Boxing fans and fighters were very angry, and leading the reaction was Terence, Crawford. The pound-for-pound champion quickly went on social media and shared his frustration in a strong message, making the situation even more intense.
Yeah, that was bullshit. It should have been called a knockdown. You can't take a break like that. The only person that can do that is the referee. The referee can stop the action and say...
Crawford first posted that Roach won, and the moment Davis went to his knee should have been called a knockdown. When the final result was announced as a draw, Crawford got even more upset. He wrote, "They robbed that boy, and it's crazy. I've never seen someone take a knee and not have it counted as a knockdown. Looks like they forgot the rules tonight." But he didn't stop there. Crawford even brought up a moment from boxing history to prove his point. He told fans to watch Floyd Mayweather versus Hernandez, where Mayweather took a knee because of a hurt hand, not even from a punch, and it was still counted as a knockdown. Crawford also said that Tank knew what was going on the whole time. He claimed Tank thought he could play around and still win, but fans can't be fooled. Crawford believes that even though Tank was in trouble during the fight, the judges gave it a draw instead of a loss. Roach even said Tank told him during the fight that they weren't going to give him the win. That alone, Crawford says, should be looked into. How can someone get rocked and still feel sure they'll win? Crawford wasn't the only one speaking out. The whole boxing world is still talking about the controversy. Many believe Roach was robbed of a fair win, even though Davis kept his undefeated record and still holds the WBA lightweight world title. The result is now surrounded by doubt. And while there were some talks about a rematch, Davis has now made it clear he's not interested in fighting Roach again. It was a rough night for him, and even though he didn't lose on paper, fans and fighters are not letting him off easy.
And then being addressed in the corner with the towel, wiping away like... I've never known that to be in any rule book in any state or country.
The moment that started all the controversy is still the biggest talking point from the fight. According to official boxing rules, if a fighter's knee touches the canvas, it must be counted as a knockdown. There's no confusion about it. But in this case, the referee ignored it, and that decision had a huge impact on the outcome. Roach was clearly angry after the fight. He felt like he was robbed of a win that could have changed his whole career. He believed he had done enough to win even without the knockdown, but losing such an important point made it even more frustrating. For him,
this guy is in front of me. He's taking it. I think it was too late. I thought it was disappointing.
After the fight, Roach shared how shocked he was by what happened. He said, "Honestly, I thought I should have won even without that being called a knockdown. Look, I'm not the ref, and if he had to wipe sweat out of his eye, then fine. But the rules clearly say that if you take a knee on purpose, it's an automatic 8 count. His words just confirmed what many in the boxing world were already thinking. According to the rule book, when Davis's knee touched the ground, it should have been counted as a knockdown. But instead, he was allowed to keep fighting with no penalty, which led to the fight ending in a draw instead of what could have been a loss.
Advantage that Keshawn has going against Tank. Yeah, it's a great boxer. He sounds a great boxer, and he got power behind him. So I can see that fight just, just being an entertaining fight. Keyshawn's an entertainer, like you said. Tank comes in there and try to knock you out. I can see that fight just being entertained and, doing later rounds.
Roach continued to talk about his performance, saying, "But it is what it is. I wasn't depending on that moment. I was focused on what I was doing in there. I felt like I was in control, landing more shots, more power shots, and I thought I was doing my thing. So I'm not really that frustrated, but if that had been counted as a knockdown, I would have won by majority decision." His frustration was understandable. It's not every day a fighter gets the chance to beat an undefeated star like Davis. For Roach, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The fact that he fought so well, only to have such an important moment ignored, made it even tougher to accept.
You heard the decision.
Nobody like a draw, from a guy that get knockouts and things like that, but it's cool. I feel like if we fight again, I could do more.
Davis said he had grease in his eyes, and that's why he took a knee during the fight. But this reason didn't calm things down, because fans and other fighters didn't believe him. Many people said it didn't matter why he went down. The important thing is that his knee touched the ground, so the referee should have started counting. Now, Davis is facing a lot of criticism. His undefeated record is still safe, but people are asking if he really deserved it. Some fans are even asking for a rematch to clear up the controversy.
Yeah, it definitely changed my plans. It definitely changed my plans. I probably got like 4 more fights now, for sure.
Boxing fans, mostly, agree with Crawford and are angry that Davis was not given a clear knockdown in the 9th round. One fan said, "He got robbed in broad daylight with cameras everywhere." Another wrote, "That should have been a knockdown. Roach won that round." A third fan added, "Damn, all sports are getting rigged, SMH." Even a Davis supporter admitted, "I'm a huge Tank fan, but I can't defend this. I've never seen anything like it. Wild." Another fan said, "Such a shame they robbed the underdog," and someone even asked, "Is taking a knee allowed now?" One simply commented, "Rigged." Boxing. As tough as it is for a fighter to give their best effort only to lose on a decision, Roach Jr. said he wasn't too upset. He explained that the final decision is just part of how things go in boxing. "I'm not totally upset. I figured with a superstar like Davis, they wouldn't call it for me," Roach Jr. said. "It was cool. I was like, they're going to give me a split decision. I saw it coming." But when he heard the score of 114-114, he was shocked. Roach Jr. added that it was hard to accept the result, especially when looking at how the 9th round went and how 2 of the 3 judges scored the fight.
Drawing back and forth at each other. What were you guys saying to each other? It felt like more than any of your other fights. It was a lot of jawing in the ring.
Just trash talking a little bit. You know what I mean? We didn't get too crazy, but...
Then there's what Davis said to Roach Jr. during the fight. If Tank knew Roach wasn't going to get the decision, what does that mean? Fighters talk trash all the time, but this wasn't just typical back and forth. Tank wasn't saying he was winning, he was saying Roach wouldn't get the decision. It sounded like a man who already knew how the night would end. Did Davis feel like something was already decided? Did he know that, no matter how close the fight was, the judges weren't going to give Roach the win? Maybe it was just bravado, or maybe it was something more.
Else was that Roach could take your power because you were throwing bombs in some of those rounds.
Yeah, it was cool.
This isn't the first time people have questioned a controversial call in a fight, but this one felt different. A close fight is one thing, but a clear knockdown not being counted, a superstar fighter taking a knee in the middle of a round while the referee stands by, and a fighter openly saying his opponent wasn't going to win, then his opponent doesn't win, has fans upset. Crawford spoke out because this wasn't just a bad decision. It made people wonder if the sport was being played fairly.
I didn't want to get caught. I didn't want to get caught while my eyes was burning. And you can get knocked out like that. So I'd rather take the knee than, you know. But I didn't really know that you can like get disqualified for all that. Or like when you start counting, I'm like, what the hell? But
this comes after Terence Crawford recently shared who he believes will finally put a dent in Tank Davis's undefeated record. The pound-for-pound great has been in the game long enough to understand how boxing politics work, but when it comes to the actual fights, he's confident Tank won't leave unscathed if he faces Keshawn Davis or Shakur Stevenson. Crawford's comments weren't just about picking winners. They were a statement. Tank knows what's coming if he ever dares to face real threats, and he's avoiding them for a reason.
A competitive fight. I think I did what I needed to do necessary to bank the rounds, and even without the knee, that should have been a knockdown. So you know, I don't think there's any excuse for me not to win tonight, but that's just how the cookie crumbles.
For years, Tank has been carefully navigating his career, taking fights that guarantee him a highlight reel knockout while avoiding the real dangers in the division. Crawford, who has built his career by taking on the best and winning in dominant fashion, sees right through it. He laid it out clearly. Stevenson and Keshawn Davis are the real threats.
You gonna call out? What was the plan originally?
I think he was here.
Tank gonna do him.
He came in my locker room.
Shakur Stevenson?
He wasn't in my locker room.
Great call.
Stevenson is a master technician who rarely takes damage and controls the pace of every fight he's in. His ability to adapt, stay calm under pressure, and frustrate opponents makes him dangerous for Tank. Stevenson wouldn't engage in a slugfest. He'd pick Tank apart, round by round, making Tank look lost. The way Tank loads up on his shots and fights in bursts plays right into Stevenson's game. Fighters who rely too much on power usually get frustrated when they can't land clean shots. Crawford knows it, Tank knows it, and anyone who understands boxing knows it. Then there's Keshawn Davis. Some might argue he's still developing, but Crawford doesn't see it that way. Keshawn has that hunger, that relentless style that could push Tank into deep waters. Unlike many of Tank's past opponents, Keshawn wouldn't just try to survive. He'd press forward and force Tank into an uncomfortable fight. And when Tank gets uncomfortable, we've seen what happens. He either bails himself out with a knockout punch or finds an excuse. Crawford's message was clear. Against the right opponent, Tank won't have an escape route.
I want to fight one of them. You know what I'm saying? I don't care who I fight at this point. I don't care. But I'm telling you, if you give me either or before they rematch, I'm fucking their rematch up. They getting put. I'm telling you, I ain't even playing. I ain't playing, bro. I'm young. I'm on fire. I'm young and I'm on fire.
Tank fans might brush off Crawford's words as just another fighter talking. But the reality is, there's a reason Tank isn't actively chasing a Stevenson or Keshawn fight. He knows the risks. That's not to say he's scared, but there's a level of careful matchmaking that's been going on for years. If Tank truly believed he was the best, he would have taken the Lomachenko fight years ago when the hype was at its peak. Instead, he let that fight fade away and waited for Lomachenko to show signs of slowing down. Now with Stevenson and Keshawn emerging as legitimate threats, the same pattern is happening again. What makes this even more controversial is that Tank has always marketed himself as a killer, a knockout artist who would put anyone to sleep. But if that's true, why are the most skilled fighters being left out of the conversation? Crawford's words hit deep because they exposed something that many fans refuse to admit. Tank is being protected, whether it's by his team or the people around him.
What y'all? Come on, man. Tell me what belt. You know boxing. You forgot Devin Haney is undisputed. Devin Haney got all the belts. He the champ. Nobody else the champ. I'm gonna come up here where the big boys at. All right, I'll welcome.
If the fight against Roach proved anything, it's that Tank is not untouchable. He was given the benefit of the doubt when the referee didn't call a knockdown, and even his own supporters couldn't defend what happened. Now, imagine if that fight had been against Stevenson or Keshawn. There wouldn't have been a chance for Tank to recover. The moment Tank was in trouble, they would have pressed forward and taken over completely. That's the reality that Crawford sees, and that's why he's confident Tank's first loss is just a matter of time. The irony is that Crawford and Tank aren't even in the same division, yet Crawford's words carry weight because he's speaking from experience. He's been in the ring with top-level competition and dominated. He's taken risks, moved up in weight, fought the best, and still came out on top.
Now the new face of boxing, what do you think?
For sure, he's facing boxing. I don't have no problem with saying that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he deserves everything that's coming to him. He's the face of boxing.
Is still fighting guys who don't pose a real threat to him. It's a completely different approach to the sport, and Crawford calling it out makes it impossible to ignore. If Tank really wants to prove he's the best, there's only one way to do it. Fight Stevenson or Keshawn Davis. No catchweights, no excuses, just a straight-up fight against someone who has the skills to match him. Until then, the doubts will remain, and Crawford's words will continue to haunt him. Because at the end of the day, being an undefeated knockout artist means nothing.
For sure.
If that would have happened, you sparred with him, correct?
Yeah.
So you and Tank, if that would have happened.
I feel like me and Tank fight how it go would be like electrifying. Like, me and him are both mean, aggressive, bully.
Teen Shakur Stevenson reacted to Tank's controversial draw against Lamont Roach by reaffirming his desire to fight Tank. He stated that he was still ready and willing to take on Davis, viewing the fight as inevitable. Stevenson also revealed that he had bet 5 kilos that the fight would go the distance, which he won, further showing his confidence in his prediction of Tank's performance. His reaction suggested he saw weaknesses in Tank that he could exploit in a future fight. Keshawn Davis, on the other hand, was even more aggressive in his response. He dismissed both Tank and Roach, boldly claiming he would knock them both out. His confidence and willingness to step into the ring with Tank have fueled speculation that he could be next in line for a major showdown. Interview with both Stevenson and Keshawn publicly calling out Davis, and Tank's controversial performance against Roach, talks of a unification fight with either man are heating up. Fans are now pushing for these matchups, believing the time is right for Davis to prove himself against elite competition. The controversy surrounding the draw has only made these potential fights even more appealing.
Either you or Keyshawn's gonna get tanked, because the walls are closing in. So
It's gonna be him though.
It makes sense. He's closer.